Okay, let's now actually look at submitting our form to our database. We've got all of our kind of information will be saved in our form data in our state. But we need to actually take this and then say, when we submit the form, take the data that's in state and make an API call to our backend. So let's just quickly make a submit button. So underneath this is vegan checkbox here. I'm just going to go ahead and create a submit button. So to do this with Bulma, we need a div with a class name of field. And then in here, we need a button. And this button needs a type of submit. And also, to make this kind of nice in Bulma, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it class names of button, of course, and then let's make it a full width one. So is full width. And also let's have it nice and yellow. I think is warning is going to make it yellow, but have a look at the docs if you want to make it a different color. So we'll say is warning, just like that. Okay, let's also then give it some text of saying submit. So let's save that now and see if we've got our submit button. Fantastic, we do. And if we click it, okay, so the page kind of refreshes. Bit odd. And we also get this up here. We get the name, the source, the crust toppings, etc., etc. So if I type something in here and then submit it, you'll see that it comes up here into the address bar. That's a little bit odd, isn't it? Well, this is just kind of the old way that people used to have to make forms, HTML forms, and submit them to a server. We want to do it slightly different. We don't want to have it kind of appear in our address bar. We don't want to refresh the page when we do so or reload the page when we do so. We want to kind of stop all of that default behavior from happening and send a request to our backend. So let's up here on our form, what we can do is we can say, when this is submitted, run this function. So inside our form tag here, I'm just going to go ahead and format this a little bit nicer so that we can put multiple properties on here. So what I'm going to say here is on submit and equals then curly brackets. We want to run a function and we'll call this function handle submit because it's a submit handler. Brilliant. Let's go ahead and actually write that function now. So function of handle submit. And in here, let's just console.log our form is being submitted. And save that. Cool, let's see what happens. So if we go back to our page, I'll just give it a refresh just to make sure. And I'm going to submit this. Oh, we did see it just come up for a second, but the same thing has happened. Let's just submit again. Oh, we got it for a second. This doesn't look right. So let's go back to our code. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab the event, that submit event here. And on that event, there is something called event.prevent default. Now, this is a method that will kind of say all of that default behavior that you were doing, yeah, stop it. Don't do that. We're going to handle all of the behavior from this submit. So if I save that now, and I hit submit, see we get the form is being submitted, but then the page just stops. And in fact, this is just a layover from what was there before. So if I remove this now, and we kind of kind of reload this page without all of those query strings afterwards, and we now hit submit, you'll notice that nothing actually appears up here. Well, that's great. We're getting form is being submitted. So brilliant. Inside here now we can go ahead and make that call. We can make the Axios call to our back end. So we're going to be using Axios. What we're going to need to do? Well, we're going to need to import it. So we'll say import Axios from Axios. So down here in our handle submit again, well, this is going to have to be an asynchronous function. So we'll say async function. And we'll just keep this here so that we can see in the console what we're actually doing. Now, let's go ahead and save the URL that we want to actually make this request to. It's going to be a post request. So we'll say const URL. And then if you go to the docs of the Pizzeria API, go and get the URL that you require to make a request to add another pizza. I've just got it here on my other screen. So this is going to need to be a string. So let's just make that string. So the only thing is, when we do add a pizza, we're going to need to use our student key. So what you might be quite tempted to do here is just add our student key underscore key here and set this equal to, and then type in or copy what your student key is. See, the only problem with doing that is that when we go and push our code up to GitHub to show off to the world and to show off to potential employers, this will be visible to them. This key will be visible. Now, okay, if it's just for the pizza API, that's probably not too big a deal. What are they going to do? Add some pizzas that are going to get get deleted every Wednesday? That'd be lovely if they got delivered every Wednesday, wouldn't it? That got deleted every Wednesday. That probably wouldn't be a big deal. But if you're using something that's really useful to people, for example, you're using a weather API, well, if somebody just starts using your account, you're the one that's going to get charged for that, not them. It can get a little bit worse, even if you're doing, if you're using stuff like AWS or Google Cloud Platform or even Azure. If you've got these keys that allow access to, spin up servers and stuff like that, what can happen? And if you do a bit of kind of reading around Reddit on AWS subreddits and stuff like that, is there's lots of stories there of people that have accidentally leaked their keys just by accidentally putting them on GitHub. And there's bots that are crawling through GitHub all the time. You know, there's literally thousands of them searching for these keys. And what they do is they will spin up maybe 100 or 1,000 different servers under your account to maybe mine Bitcoin or something like that, you know, kind of something that will make them money. Now, it will cost, if they were to do that themselves, it would cost them more than they would make, but they're not the ones footing the bill. You are. So there are, you know, stories of people accidentally leaking their keys and, you know, them getting bills from AWS for literally hundreds of thousands of dollars because they've spun up all of the biggest servers with the biggest GPUs and stuff like that. So it's really important not to let any kind of API keys become public knowledge. Because, as I say, these things do happen. In fact, a previous cohort that I was teaching in the Middle East, one of the students was using the Google Mail API, and he, within about 10 seconds of him realizing that he'd accidentally hit Git push and seeing that he hadn't hidden the key, within about 10 seconds, he got an email from Google saying that his account had been not shut down, but had kind of been restricted, or I can't remember the exact wording. But literally within 10 seconds, a bot had grabbed that key logged into the account and sent over 100,000 spam emails asking people for their passwords, or trying to phish people's passwords for Microsoft Office and Microsoft Office 365 stuff. Now, this was not his fault, but if there was an investigation into this phishing attack, it was his account. So I can't stress how important it is to make sure that these keys never become public knowledge. Now, there is a really simple and easy way to make sure that we never push keys to GitHub. And we can use something called a .env file. Now, this isn't completely unhackable, but it does really drastically increase the kind of the barrier to being able to get hold of these keys. So, for example, if it was something like the Pizza API, yeah, you can use this method. This is really not a problem. If it's a public API that you're using, you can use this method. If you're using maybe AWS, something that could cost you hundreds of thousands, you should probably take a different approach, but we'll come on to those approaches later down the line. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a .env file. So in the root of our project, I'm just going to make a new file, and we're going to call this .env. Nice. And this is just kind of an empty file that we can put some stuff in. It's a hidden file, and we know this because of the dot in front of it. We need to go into this git ignore. Now, all a git ignore is we're telling Git, hey, don't bother tracking any of these files. When I say git add, I want you to add everything except what's in here. So, for example, our node modules don't get pushed up to GitHub because these could be gigabytes in larger files. So there's no point in having them all sat on the server when we can just do npm-i and it will download them all for us anyway. So in here under MISC, what I want us to do is to put .env. And this says, hey, just leave this on my computer. Do not track this file, this .env file. Cool, so I'm going to save that. And that's kind of anything that goes in here now will not get pushed to GitHub, will not be tracked by Git. This will just live on our computers. And assuming that your computer has a strong password and you don't give away your computer to somebody with nefarious, or you don't have your laptop stolen and you've got strong passwords on it, this will be safe. So in React, the way that we do this is we can say React, and this all has to be uppercase. So React _app_, and then we can give this a name. So I'm going to give this a name of student key. Oh, let's actually make that student _ key. And then equals, and then you can just go ahead and paste in your student key. Okay, so let's save that now. So in our pizza form, obviously yours will be different. This one should be blocked now, so you probably shouldn't bother using that. Maybe it will work, I don't know. But anyway, use your own key. So inside our pizza form, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say const key equals, and then we can use process.env, and my windows are getting in the way a little bit there, but process.env .react _app _student _key. Feel free to just go and copy and paste this from the .env file, because then you know that you're not going to make any mistakes. And then what I'll do is I'll just say console.log key. So now if I save this, let's go back to our React app, and I'm just going to go and hit submit. And what we get is, if I just refresh this and submit this, what we should get is our student key printed out to the console. Now, if you don't get your student key printed out to the console, double check that this is spelt exactly the way that I have it here. And also just go ahead and in your terminal that you're running your app from, Control C and then npm start again, just to restart your app. Normally, when you make changes to your env file, you will need to restart your app. Mine didn't just then because I've been kind of playing with it in the background before this video, before recording this video, but you may need to restart your application. Do not worry if that's the case. That's just the way of it. Great, so what we can then do is we can, I mean, it's a bad idea to go ahead and kind of print our secret keys to the console. So I'm just going to copy that, comment that out. And here, I'm going to change this to backticks and insert into here our key. Let's then go ahead and create our Axios call. So we'll say const response equals await Axios dot post, because it's a post request. Go and have a look at the docs if you're unsure about this. First argument needs to be the URL that we're making making the call to. The second is the JSON data that we want to send in the body of our request. So we'll put in our URL here, and then, well, what do we want as our data? Well, we want our form data. So let's pass that in. So our form data. Let's then just go ahead and console.log our response so we can see what comes back from Axios. So let's actually see what response we get from our API in the console when we submit a new pizza to the database. So I'm just going to go back to my pizzas add form. Let's make a new one. Georgia is pizza. And then sauce, pesto. Obviously, you put whatever you like in here. I'm going to put thick crust, toppings. I'm going to have pepperoni and peppers. You know, obviously, you can put whatever you like into these. The image, let me go and get a pepperoni pizza image. Copy image address. I'm just going to paste that in there. Size 12. Heat rating maybe 3 for this, and it's not vegetarian or vegan. Cool. So if I'm just going to clear my console just using this button here, and then let's see what happens when we submit. Brilliant. We get the form is being submitted. We get the actual form data because we're logging that to the console just before submit. And then we also get this here on line 58. So this is actually our response here. So fantastic. So inside our data, because we're using Axios, we've done this before, inside our data, we've had returned to us all of the kind of the new pizza's data. We know it's new because we've been given this underscore ID, which now has the ID of the pizza. Well, wouldn't it be nice if when we hit submit, we then redirected our user to our new kind of pizza detail page of that newly submitted pizza? So what we're going to need to do is we're going to have to use some kind of navigation or something inside React that will take this ID here and then kind of redirect our user to that, you know, the pizza slash or pizzas slash and then the ID of the new pizza. So the way that we can do this is using the use navigate hook. So let's head back to our code. And what we can do is we can import use navigate from React Router DOM. So we'll say import, then this needs to be in curly brackets. We need to have use navigate from, and then this is actually inside React-router-DOM. So if I save that now and just Option Shift and F to space this out nicely. The way that we use this is we have to invoke the use navigate hook at the top of our component. So what we'll do here is we'll say const navigate equals, and then use, I should probably spell that correctly, use navigate. And then parentheses in order to invoke that use navigate function. And it's saved in this variable here, which is great, the navigate variable. So if I now just go down to our handle submit function here, we can keep this console.log response in. It's good for debugging. When we actually put this online for users, we should probably remove these so that the console doesn't get logged, with loads of data that we might not want the user to see. What we can do is we can say here, navigate. So the place that we want it to go is /pizzas/ and then the ID of that new pizza. So what we can do is let's just use backticks. Let's make this with a template literal. So we can say go to /pizzas and then / and then we're going to insert the response .data ._ID. And what this will then do is kind of push the user's page to this new pizza that we've just created. Let's just test that that works. So I'm just going to save this now. And, why can't we see module not found, can't resolve React router DOM? That's why, because I've spelt it incorrectly. Cool. So if you've got the same problem, make sure that we are spelling this correctly, and probably should have used autocorrect for this reason. So React router DOM. Save that. And we're back. Brilliant. The error has gone. Easily done. So let's just very quickly go ahead and add some info. It's not vegetarian. And I'm just going to clear this. And I want you to look really kind of closely at this. This is going to change very, very quickly. So if I now submit this, brilliant. We now actually get that new pizza because we've taken the ID from the from that response from Axios, and we've kind of pushed the user to this new URL here. Of course, we're still getting a few warnings and that kind of thing. We can come back and just deal with those because this is now on a new page. This is now in the pizza detail page. So probably should come back and fix these, but for now, I think I'm probably going to leave them. Something that we should probably do. Now, this is good practice to do throughout your application, and we have done this before, but there's any number of things that can go wrong in here. So let's just tidy it up and put in a little bit of error handling. So just under the event.prevent default, because we're going to want that to happen every time, no matter what, even when something doesn't go wrong. So we'll put in a try catch. So we'll say try, and then I'm going to go ahead and move all of this code into the try, and then Option Shift and F just to format it nicely. And then we'll have a catch, and let's pass the error, or get hold of the error in our catch. And I'm just going to go ahead and console.log our error, just so that we can see it on the console. In reality, what you should probably do is have an error message actually appear on the page. And you could do that using your knowledge of putting something into state and then having that maybe appear inside a set of p tags at the bottom of the page, just under the submit button. For now, though, I'm just going to leave it like this. And we just know that if, say, something goes wrong in this URL here, we've accidentally mistyped it, maybe the response comes back without the ID, something happens, we know that it's not going to come up with that kind of horrible error message in front of our users. And instead, it's just going to go and log whatever the error is to the console.